The Pentagon just admitted they don't even know how fragile our defense systems are. China's building missiles, and we're still having meetings about paperwork. If that doesn't make your blood boil, it should, because this is how empires fall.
Or high risk, and what data underpins those assessments?
Thank you for your question. I will confess I don't have a holistic view of where the fragility exists in the defense industrial base, but I'm committed to finding, working with my team to holistically understand that, because I think that's critical to ensuring that we're allocating resources that Congress has appropriated, that we ensure that we understand where those greatest constraints and fragility exists. I can tell you that we are actively pursuing within the munitions sector, solid rocket motors, and looking at ways to expand the production capacity there. Certain microelectronic components can be a constraint. And we're also, because this is a kind of a crosscut, we see a lot of interesting innovative ideas come in areas such as additive manufacturing and opportunities to improve how we're doing castings and those sorts of things, particularly within munitions, but really across the board.
And Mr. Undersecretary, one of the greatest force multipliers the United States has is its extensive network of allies and partners across the globe. What are the department's plans to better integrate allied co-production or supply chain collaboration into the department's industrial base strategy?
Well, I think the president has pushed a very strong message of self-reliance, and part of that would be how do we assist our allies and partners with creating their own defense industrial base to supply their needs. So this is an area where I think we have a lot of thinking to do about how do we manage the complexity of technology exports, limited supply chains, workforce expertise, and partner with nations to share what we can without degrading our own operational readiness. And so within the department, I've got a partnership with Under Secretary of Defense Colby, who heads our policy office, and our international partnerships. And we're dedicated to really thinking through how do we get after this problem in a way that really benefits the department and the holistic collective defense.
Thank you for that. And like a few of my colleagues here, I'm also interested in the right to repair issues and its impacts on acquisition costs and flexibility. In an April 30th memo, Secretary Hegseth directed the Army to incorporate right to repair provisions in all its contracts. This is a massive undertaking that raises other questions about the ability of the Army acquisition workforce to negotiate these provisions in a timely fashion. But my question to you, Undersecretary Duffy, is how do you plan on supporting and executing the Secretary's intent in your acquisition process?
Well, I think that direction, as we've spoken about today, does maintain some flexibility on how do we pursue the data that is required to enable the sustainment of the system while still respecting the need to protect the intellectual property that's privately funded and is really an engine of the innovation that we are dependent upon. So I'm looking forward to working with my Army colleagues to understand how do we navigate that complex issue.
And if I may, my final question, do you plan on excluding commercial items from right to repair? And if so, how do you see the impact, this impacting forward deployed forces?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't think we've thought that, at least I haven't thought that through sufficiently enough to understand, but I'll just repeat the thought that I want to make sure that we're taking a balanced approach where we're respecting the intellectual property rights with the need for us to have access to information.
Thank you, Undersecretary. Any gentlemen, anything to add?
Sir, so from the Army perspective, I would just say that we're still in the process right now of trying to develop what that strategy is going to be. I would tell you that we've already leaned forward and we're essentially surveying the force and the fleet to try to get feedback to understand exactly where a right to repair issue has come up. And then it's a matter of looking at how do we then fix that with existing contracts, and then moving forward, what is the appropriate level of access that we're going to have with new systems. So more to follow on that.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing back. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The Pentagon admits our defense systems are fragile, our supply chains are unstable, and they don't even have a full understanding of where the weak spots are. And we're supposed to feel confident about that? Welcome to Jace Manhwa, where we expose the truth that the mainstream won't touch. If you love your country and believe in putting America first, militarily, economically, and culturally, smash that like button and subscribe. We don't sugarcoat anything here. Let's get into it. So, Congressman Mr. Tran from California just sat down with Department of Defense officials to talk about acquisition reform. Translation? How we buy and build the tools that keep our troops safe and our country strong. And what came out of this discussion should set off alarms for every patriotic American. Under Secretary Duffy, who's supposed to be one of the top minds on defense logistics, openly said she doesn't have a complete picture of how fragile our defense industrial base is. She doesn't know. In a time when China is ramping up production, Iran is emboldened, and Russia is destabilizing entire regions, our own leaders don't have the full picture of how ready we are? That's a dereliction of duty, plain and simple. She went on to say that certain parts of the munitions sector are struggling. Solid rocket motors, microelectronic components, casting processes. This isn't new. These are issues conservatives have been warning about for years. Our supply chains are overextended, too dependent on foreign parts, and choked with regulation. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. Even more troubling is the talk about partnering with foreign allies to co-produce defense equipment. Let me be clear, America should never rely on foreign production for the tools of war. I don't care if it's a NATO ally or not. When push comes to shove, only one country will defend the United States, and that's the United States. Building joint supply chains is a nice diplomatic talking point, but it's a strategic vulnerability in real-world conflict. Then we get into the so-called right to repair issue. The Army is finally being told to include repair provisions in their contracts, so our troops can fix equipment in the field without going through corporate red tape. That should have been standard practice from day one. Our men and women in uniform shouldn't be stranded because someone at a defense contractor is arguing over intellectual property rights. That's a sick joke. Duffy tried to play both sides here, talking about balancing IP rights with maintenance access. But at the end of the day, the war fighter comes first. If your truck breaks down in the desert or your comms gear fails on a mission, you don't have time to wait for legal clearance. You fix it and move on. That's how wars are won, by being prepared, being independent, and being smart. And when she was asked whether commercial items would be excluded from right to repair policies, she dodged the question. Said she hasn't thought it through. That's the problem right there. Our Pentagon is filled with paper pushers who haven't thought things through. They've created a bloated, inflexible system that's too slow to adapt and too obsessed with process over performance. Meanwhile, the Army is just now starting to survey the fleet and figure out where the problems are. Folks, we are in 2025. We've had 2 decades of war, rising global tensions, and a shrinking industrial base, and only now are we trying to figure out what's broken? This isn't just inefficiency. This is dangerous incompetence. And it's happening on the backs of our service members, who are out there doing their jobs with whatever tools we manage to get to them, late, overpriced, and often incomplete. Here's the truth the elites won't say. America needs to rebuild its defense from the inside out. That means ditching the red tape, cutting out the foreign dependencies, bringing manufacturing home, and putting our troops first, not the contractors, not the allies, not the bureaucrats. If you believe in a strong America, militarily and morally, hit that like button, share this video, and make sure you're subscribed to Jace Manhwa. This is the only way we fight back against the slow rot of incompetence in our institutions. Speak up, stay informed, and stand your ground. Thanks for watching. God bless our troops. God bless American strength. And God bless this republic.